Alright, I'm back with my once an expansion guide on how to play Moonkin. This time we're going into the raid, because Liberation of Undermine comes out tomorrow. First thing we're going to talk about is the talent changes we got in the class tree. We got a couple of funny new talents, like Lykara's Meditation, which lets us keep our stat from Lykara's Teaching when we switch back through a form. So if I go into Bear form, I gain 6% verse. It's getting changed tomorrow, so that you have to sit in form for 3 seconds hasted, so about 2 globals. And then when you switch out of the form, you'll keep those stats for 5 seconds. So you'll see that my verse is going to go back down soon. This has opened up some funny gameplay. We also just got a complete rebalancing of the tree so that you can actually take points that you care about. At the moment, I would say these 3 points are pretty much optional things that I've decided I want. I don't need. You can take Urson Vigor. I think 1 minute roar is pretty much required if you're the only druid in your raid, or like you're playing a resto shaman, they can't really take wind rush for some reason. If you don't really need Typhoon or Ursels for any reason, you could take a point out of these and put them into some more armor and Killer Instinct up here. But for the most part, we have more points than we know what to do with now. On the right side, we are playing some new talents that we haven't touched yet this expansion, namely Touch the Cosmos, which gives our builders a chance to give us a free spender. The way we're going to play around this is you're just going to use it as soon as it pops up because you don't want to accidentally munch a proc. The exception being if you're out of Eclipse. Obviously, we're not pressing Star Surge outside of an Eclipse. Now, the build I have up on screen right now is what we're playing tomorrow on raid release day. However, once we get our 4-piece, this is going to change a little bit. So instead, we'll be playing something that looks a little more like this. We're going to be grabbing Sunseeker Mushrooms and Orbit Breaker for passive AP, and we lost these 2 talent points for passive AP. So our new 2-piece, we're hitting a jackpot just like everybody else. Every time we deal damage, have a chance to grow a mushroom, and whenever we press Incarn, we get a guaranteed mushroom jackpot. And while Mushroom's dot is on the target, we gain 20% damage with our spenders. That's the 4-piece. So because of this, Sunseeker Mushroom is going to gain a lot of value because it has pretty high uptime, which gives us pretty high uptime on 20% damage on our hardest hitting spell. And then we swap to Orbit Breaker because it generates more AP than Soul of the Forest when we are spending as much as we will be this patch. If we get into a fight that has multiple targets that we're going to be able to get good value out of it, we're going to be swapping over to Twin Moons. We're dropping Nature's Balance. Don't really care. Not a lot of AP. This is going to save us a lot of globals. It's also going to make our trees apply Moonfire to more targets. And the difference between Wild Surges and Stellar Flare and pure single target is under 10k. So for ease, I think I will be playing Wild Surges in a fight where I would have to maintain lots of Stellar Flares. We'll be keeping mushrooms. Everything this tier with our 4-piece is going to revolve around mushrooms. You are never going to be untalenting this point. There is an AoE build that I have up right now. This is on the Dream Grove. However, I don't think this is going to see any play this tier outside of maybe Styx Bunk Junker. And that only is going to happen if rolling the balls over the ads, when you crash into the boss, it gets them close enough that your Starfire is going to cleave the ads. If you're not going to get any cleave value, I don't see a world where we're playing this in the raid, and I will just be playing this build, which is the single target cleave build. I think that on a fight like One-Armed Bandit, I could make an argument to play Stellar Flare as it's mostly a single target boss. And I think you could even make an argument to just play the pure single target build on that boss because the ads don't really give you a chance to get Twin Moons value. It would just be what your trees can apply for you, which they can already do without Twin Moons. As far as what I'm planning to play for most fights, it's most likely going to be this build for everything in the raid except for Vexy, Styx, and the One-Armed Bandit, maybe. Like I mentioned earlier, if you don't need Typhoon and Ursel, instead of taking Killer Instinct, you can also opt for Matted Fur, as this will get slightly more value as the armor you get from Killer Instinct doesn't really affect anything in the raid. The only time this would be valuable is if you were getting fixated by ads, which I don't remember there being any in the raid. Now, the reason that I brought up Lykara's Meditation at the start of the video is because it's changing how we're doing our opener. So at the start of fights, we are now going to be camping Bear form to get the verse buff inside our opener. I'm taking advantage of Fluid form to put us in Moonkin form. And we're going to pretend I have a pull timer. So you'll start casting from max range sometime around 3.5 seconds before the pull. So you'll go from our double Wrath. That way our Stellar Flare lands on 0. We'll put our dots up. We can immediately start spending. And as soon as we're out of spending, we'll Convoke. Then we'll spend it all again. Make sure our dots stay up. And then we're just spending and building, just like always. The only benefit is we now have a Touch the Cosmos proc. Here I see my trees are coming up and my Moonfire needs a refresh, so I'm not going to press Moonfire. I'm just going to let my trees do it for me. That's one big thing I see a lot of people do, is they refresh their Moonfire, then they let their trees do it for them anyway. You just want to let them do it all the time if you're not going to lose any kind of Moonfire uptime from it. And that's pretty much it. The rotation really has not changed. Now granted, I just did all this with the talents that we'll be playing when we have our 4-piece. So my AP gen was a bit low. Keeping in mind that when we're playing without the 4-piece, we'll have Soul of the Forest and Crashing Star, so our AP generation is going to be quite a bit higher, which means we'll be pressing more Star Surges. Like I was mentioning, you want to let your trees refresh your Moonfire for you. It saves you a number of globals over the course of the fight, which you can spend better elsewhere. Another thing I see people doing is just dropping their trees on cooldown all the time. You want to make sure we're taking advantage of Control the Dream. This gives you 15 seconds leeway to use them more optimally. So what that might look like is making sure that you get into your next solar eclipse before you drop your trees so that your dream bursts get the benefit of your mastery. I will briefly touch on consumables, I guess. We're playing alchemical chaos flasks, regular tempered pots, like last patch. When I simmed it, currently eating feast main stat food is like 1500 DPS worse in last patch's gear compared to eating secondary food. The gap's only going to get wider, so you should consider getting secondary food. Either Belladar's Bounty or this new stat food called Authentic Undermined Clam Chowder. Gives one more secondary than Belladar's Bounty. Which, you know, one mastery, that's going to make a big difference. Mastery Flask was a pretty sizable loss on the sim, so I would just stick to playing Alchemical Chaos. Everything else is pretty much how it already was last patch. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all that's changed for Moonkin this patch. We're pretty much playing it like last patch. Just some more procs, some more gambling for the casino tier. I'm going to leave imports to all the talents that I showed. They'll also be on the Dreamgrove website, which I'll leave in the description. A huge thanks to Gams, Soon, and Vinter for putting that together for all of us. So you guys can always reference that. And they have a lot of the stuff that I covered just in written form over there. And yeah. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you guys have a good tier. Best of luck. If you guys want to see me playing Druid or ask any questions about anything in this guide or anything Druid related, feel free to drop by my stream, which I'll also leave in the description. And I'll see you next expansion for my next Moonkin guide. Thanks for watching.